Have you ever looked at your life and thought, there's got to be more than this? More energy, more passion, more success, more meaning. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. You work hard, you try to stay positive, you dream big, but somehow you feel like something's missing. Like there's a giant sleeping inside you, and you just can't wake it up. Tony Robbins believes that giant is you. And his book, Awaken the Giant Within, is not just a book, it's a wake-up call. A challenge to take control of the one thing you've always had, your mind. Because the truth is, your life changes the moment you decide it will. Not when you get lucky, not when someone saves you, but when you draw a line in the sand and say, that's it. I'm done living on autopilot. I'm taking back control. Think about this. Every great story starts with a decision to fight, a decision to rise, a decision to become more. Nelson Mandela decided he would forgive. Oprah decided she would rise above her pain. Elon Musk decided he would reach for the stars, literally. Each of them awakened something powerful inside, and that power already lives in you. But here's the thing. Most people never meet that version of themselves. They live small, not because they're weak, but because no one ever taught them how to use their inner strength. And that's what Tony Robbins does. He doesn't motivate you for a day. He rewires how you think forever. When I first picked up this book, I didn't know what to expect. I'd heard about Tony Robbins, the giant guy with the deep voice and impossible energy, but I thought, come on, can a book really change my life? Then I tried one of his simplest rules. Decide. Make one real, committed decision. So I made one. I'm going to stop wishing for change and start creating it. I didn't have all the answers, but that one shift, it felt like the spark that lights a fire. And I saw how right Tony was. When you make a true decision, not a hope, not a maybe, your brain starts moving the universe in your direction. That's when I realized, this isn't a book about motivation. It's a manual for taking back your power. Tony says something brilliant early in the book. The only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment. And he's right, because most of us aren't stuck, we're just trained to believe we are. We wait for the right time, the right idea, the right feeling. But life doesn't wait. It rewards movement, not hesitation. And the best part, you don't need to be fearless. You just need to act in spite of fear. That's what awakening the giant within really means. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you already are. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt alive? Like really alive? Your heart beating fast, your mind clear, your spirit awake? If it's been a while, don't worry. This book is your map back to that feeling. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore Tony's most powerful lessons: how to master your emotions, how to break your limiting beliefs, how to design your destiny instead of drifting through it. These aren't abstract ideas. They're tools that can turn your life around. I've used them myself, and I've seen results that honestly felt impossible before. So stay with me till the end of this video, because what you'll hear might just change the way you think forever. This is Awaken the Giant Within, and today you're about to meet the strongest version of yourself. Let's begin.
The power of decision. Tony Robbins says it's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Let that sink in. Not in your moments of chance, not in your moments of comfort, but in the exact moment you finally say, enough, I'm changing this. Every transformation story you've ever heard, every comeback, every breakthrough, every legend, it all starts with one decision. Think about it. Joanne Rowling decided to write Harry Potter when she was broke and rejected by 12 publishers. Michael Jordan decided he'd never let being cut from his high school team define him. And Tony Robbins himself, he decided to stop being poor, stop feeling powerless, and build a new life of purpose and abundance. One decision. That's all it takes to redirect your destiny. But here's the truth. Most people don't decide. They wish, they hope, they try. They say, I want to lose weight. I want to be happier. I want to make more money. But they never make a decision that says, I must. And Tony teaches that the difference between wanting and deciding is the difference between dreaming and doing. Because when you make a real decision, you cut off all other options. You eliminate excuses, doubts, distractions, and your brain goes, okay, we're doing this. No turning back. When I first read this part of the book, I stopped and thought, what decisions in my life have I actually committed to? The answer surprised me. I realized I'd been floating, waiting for motivation, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for clarity. But clarity doesn't come before the decision, it comes after it. So I tried Tony's advice. I made one powerful choice. I'm going to take full responsibility for my life. No more blaming, no more waiting. And you know what happened? It wasn't magic, nothing changed overnight, but I changed instantly. My focus shifted. I started noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. And slowly, life started responding. It felt like flipping a switch I didn't even know existed. Tony says your decisions control 3 things: what you focus on, what things mean to you, and what you do about them. If you decide to focus on what's wrong, you'll find pain. If you decide to focus on what's possible, you'll find power. And that's when your world starts expanding. Because reality follows attention. Where focus goes, energy flows, and results show. But here's the key. You don't need to make 10 decisions. You need to make one strong one. One that says, I'm done being stuck. I'm done playing small. I'm done living on autopilot. That one moment, when you draw the line, that's the birth of the new you. Tony shares a story about his own life. He was broke, living in a tiny apartment, washing dishes for $40 a week. One day, he looked in the mirror and said, I refuse to live this way another day. He made a decision to change his standards, his habits, his destiny. And that decision became the seed of everything he's built since. You don't need a miracle to change your life. You need a moment of truth and a decision. So, let me ask you something. What's one decision you've been putting off? Maybe it's leaving a job that drains your soul. Maybe it's starting that business you keep thinking about. Maybe it's deciding to finally take care of your health or to let go of a past that's been holding you back. Whatever it is, make that decision today. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because the longer you wait, the more power you give away. And once you decide, truly decide, the universe starts to move with you. When I made my own decision to take control, it didn't make life easier, but it made me stronger. And every good thing that happened since started in that one moment. So yes, Tony was right. Your destiny isn't written by luck or fate or chance. It's written by the decisions you make every single day. This is the moment that shapes your future. What will you decide?
Control your state. You can have the best goals, the smartest plan,
the biggest dreams. But if your energy is low, if your emotions are chaotic, you won't move. Tony Robbins says, your state is everything. The state you're in, physically, emotionally, mentally, controls the quality of every decision you make. Because think about it. Have you ever tried to solve a problem while you were angry or exhausted? Everything feels harder, right? But when you're confident, focused, and alive, suddenly the same problem looks easy. That's the power of your state. It's the invisible force that drives your behavior. Tony teaches that emotion doesn't just happen to you. You create it. How? Through your focus, language, and physiology. These three are the master keys to controlling how you feel, anytime, anywhere. Let's break them down. Number 1 is physiology. Motion creates emotion. Have you noticed how your body moves when you're sad? Shoulders down, eyes low, breathing shallow. Now imagine someone confident. Their chest is open, they stand tall, they breathe deeply, they move with purpose. Same person, different energy. Because your body and your mind are connected like wires. Change your body, and your brain instantly follows. When I first tried this, I thought it was too simple to work. But one day, before an important meeting, I felt nervous. So I did what Tony teaches. I stood tall, stretched my arms wide, took 3 deep breaths, and said out loud, "I've got this." And guess what? My state flipped like a switch. Confidence isn't magic, it's movement. So if you feel down, move. Jump, stretch, breathe, walk fast. Your body is your power button. Number 2, focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. Whatever you focus on, you feel. If you focus on what's wrong, you'll feel pain. If you focus on what's possible, you'll feel power. Your brain is like a GPS. It doesn't care where you tell it to go. If you ask, "Why do bad things always happen to me?" your mind will find reasons. But if you ask, "How can I make this better?" it will search for solutions. Tony says it like this: the quality of your life is the quality of your questions. So, the next time you're upset, stop and ask yourself, what else could this mean? What can I learn from this? How can I use this right now? That one shift in focus can turn frustration into clarity in seconds. Number 3 is language. Words create worlds. What you say to yourself shapes how you feel. If you keep saying, "I'm exhausted," your body will listen. If you say, "I'm done," your brain shuts down. But if you say, "I'm figuring it out," your mind wakes up again. Tony calls this transformational vocabulary. He says, change your words and you change your life. For example, instead of saying, "I'm angry," say, "I'm a little annoyed, but I can handle it." Instead of, "I'm depressed," say, "I'm recharging before my next breakthrough." The meaning you attach to your words defines your reality. I've personally seen this work. When I started replacing "I have to" with "I get to," everything changed. "I have to work out" became "I get to move my body." "I have to work" became "I get to build my dream." Suddenly, gratitude replaced pressure. So, let's put it all together. When you change your physiology, you change your focus, and you change your language, you literally rewrite your emotional state. You stop waiting for motivation and you start creating it. This is how high performers, athletes, leaders, and creators operate every day. They don't wait to feel ready. They get into the right state first. Tony does it for every event. He jumps, breathes, screams, moves. He creates a peak emotional state, and then he takes action. That's why he's unstoppable. So, here's your challenge. Tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, stand tall, take 3 deep breaths, and say, "Today, I'm in charge of my state." Move your body like someone who already feels amazing. and your mind will catch up. Because the truth is, you're not your emotions. You're the one who creates them. Control your state, and you control your life. Imagine this. Two people face the exact same challenge. One sees it as the end, this is impossible, I can't do it. The other says, it's hard, but I'll find a way. What's the difference? It's not intelligence, not resources. It's beliefs. Tony Robbins says, beliefs have the power to create and the power to destroy. And that single idea, if you truly understand it, can change your entire life. Because your beliefs shape your reality. They determine what you notice, how you act, and ultimately, who you become.
What are beliefs, really? A belief is simply a feeling of certainty about what something means. It's not necessarily truth. It's a story you've told yourself so many times that it became your reality. For example, if you believe, I'm not good at public speaking, you'll avoid every chance to speak. You'll never practice, never improve, and guess what? You'll stay terrible at it. Not because you can't speak well, but because you believe you can't. On the other hand, if you believe, I can learn to communicate powerfully, your brain starts looking for ways to make it true. You'll seek advice, watch others, practice, and soon the belief becomes real. Beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. They either cage you or set you free. The 3 levels of beliefs. Robbins breaks down beliefs into 3 levels. 1. About yourself. Who you think you are. I'm strong. I'm unlucky. I'm not smart enough. 2. About others. What you believe about people. People can't be trusted. Most people are kind. 3. About the world. How you think life works. The world is unfair. Life rewards effort. Each belief becomes a filter. 2 people can look at the same situation and live in completely different worlds. How beliefs are formed. Beliefs are built through repetition and emotion. Maybe you failed a test once and felt humiliated, so your brain decided, I'm just not good at studying. Or maybe someone praised you when you helped them, and that emotional reward taught your brain, helping others feels amazing. That's how beliefs are born, through emotional experiences that repeat. And most of our beliefs were installed in childhood, not chosen consciously. So the question is, are your beliefs serving you or sabotaging you? How to change a limiting belief. Tony Robbins gives a powerful process to break limiting beliefs. 1. Identify the belief. Write it down. I believe that. Be honest. 2. Question it. Ask, is this absolutely true? Where did I get this belief? What would happen if I stopped believing it? 3. Replace it. Choose a new empowering belief and condition it daily with emotion and repetition. Don't just say it, feel it, live it, visualize it, associate it with massive pleasure. As Tony says, to change your life, you must change your beliefs, and to change your beliefs, you must change your references and emotions. When I first read this, I realized I had one big limiting belief. I'm not confident enough to speak on camera. That belief held me back for years. But then I used Tony's strategy. I replaced it with, I'm someone who grows every time I speak. At first, it felt fake, but I repeated it daily, recorded short videos, and celebrated even tiny progress. After a month, I started believing it. After 3, I was living it. That one belief opened doors to opportunities I'd been too afraid to chase. Beliefs build or break your world. Beliefs are like the software of your mind. If the code is full of bugs, your system crashes. But when you rewrite that code consciously, you become unstoppable. Tony Robbins says, the only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself. So stop repeating the story of your limits. Start building the story of your potential. The truth is, you already have the power. It's been inside you this whole time, sleeping under layers of doubt and fear. Change your beliefs and you'll awaken that power. If you're ready to take control of your life, start with your beliefs.
Because when your mind believes something is possible, your actions will make it real. The secret formula of change. Let's be honest. How many times have you said, "I'm going to change. This time, it's for real"? You start a diet, you promise to wake up early, to stop procrastinating, and maybe you even stick with it for a few days. But then something happens, a little stress, a long day, and you slide right back into your old habits. Why? Because change isn't about willpower. It's about conditioning. Tony Robbins calls it neuroassociative conditioning, or NAC, the ultimate method for rewiring your brain to create lasting transformation. This isn't motivation that fades after a week. This is a psychological system for reprogramming the way you think, feel, and act forever.
The core idea of NAC. Every decision you make, every habit you repeat, is driven by two invisible forces: the need to avoid pain, the desire to gain pleasure. That's it. Every human behavior boils down to those two instincts. If something feels painful, your brain will avoid it. If something feels pleasurable, you'll crave it. So the real secret of lasting change is to link massive pain to your bad habits and massive pleasure to your new empowering behaviors. Until you do that, your brain will always pull you back to the old pattern. How NAC works. The 6 steps. Tony breaks NAC into 6 powerful steps. Let's walk through them one by one. Step 1. Decide what you really want and what's holding you back. Be brutally honest. What habit, thought, or emotion is keeping you stuck? Maybe it's fear, maybe procrastination, maybe comfort. Identify it, name it, because you can't change what you don't clearly see. Step 2. Create massive pain to not changing. Now this is where it gets intense. You need to emotionally associate pain with your old behavior. Ask yourself, what has this habit already cost me? How will my life look in 5 years if I don't change? Who am I hurting by staying the same? Tony says, we change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. You have to feel it, not just think it. Make your old patterns so unbearable that your brain screams, enough. Step 3. Create massive pleasure to changing now. Pain pushes you. Pleasure pulls you. You need both. Visualize your ideal future in vivid detail. How it feels, looks, smells. See yourself confident, energized, living your dream life. Associate every empowering behavior with deep joy and satisfaction. You're training your brain to crave the new you. Step 4. Interrupt the old pattern. Here's where you break the mental circuit. Whenever your old behavior starts, interrupt it immediately. Change your body posture, shout a word, clap, laugh, do anything to disrupt the pattern. Tony calls this pattern interruption. It's like throwing a wrench into an old machine. You stop it from running automatically. I tried this myself. Every time I caught myself overthinking, I'd literally snap my fingers and say, "Stop, new story." It felt silly at first, but it worked because it broke the unconscious loop. Step 5. Condition the new pattern until it's automatic. Repetition is the mother of skill. Every time you link pleasure to your new habit and practice it with emotion, you strengthen a new neural pathway. The more you repeat it, the deeper it gets wired. Eventually, it becomes automatic, your new default behavior. That's how real transformation sticks. Tony says, it's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but what we do consistently. Step 6. Test it and reinforce it daily. The final step, make sure your new pattern actually works and feels rewarding. Test it in real situations, celebrate small wins, reward yourself, and keep reinforcing the belief, this is who I am now.
Because every time you reward a new pattern, your brain releases dopamine, the good feel signal that locks in the behavior. Neuroassociative conditioning is rooted in behavioral psychology and neuroscience. Your brain creates associations between stimuli and emotions. Over time, these associations become automatic neural pathways. For example, you associate cake with comfort, so you crave sugar when sad. You associate exercise with exhaustion, so you avoid it. NAC flips those associations. You start linking pain to inaction and pleasure to progress. Soon, your brain naturally prefers growth over comfort. That's how you take control back from your subconscious. When I read this chapter, I realized I had conditioned myself to associate stress with snacking. Every time I was anxious, I'd reach for food. So I applied Tony's 6 steps. I visualized all the pain that habit brought, feeling sluggish, unfocused, guilty. Then I linked massive pleasure to drinking water, going for a quick walk, or doing 10 push-ups. At first it was awkward, but within 2 weeks, the craving was gone. Now, when I feel stress, I move, I breathe, I reset. That's NAC in action. Real change, not theory. You don't need to fight your habits. You need to retrain your associations. Your brain isn't your enemy. It's your greatest ally once you teach it what truly brings long-term pleasure. Every breakthrough begins with a shift in associations. Pain to old habit, pleasure to new identity. Do that and change becomes effortless. Tony Robbins says, the secret of success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. That's what NAC is all about. It's not just theory, it's a system for rewiring your emotions and behaviors so you naturally do what empowers you. You don't force yourself to change, you want to. And once you master that, you'll never have to try again. You'll just become the person you've always wanted to be.
Why we feel torn inside. Have you ever had 2 voices fighting inside your head? One says, go after your dreams, take the risk. The other whispers, play it safe, don't mess things up. You feel stuck, frustrated, like you're taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Tony Robbins says that this inner conflict isn't about lack of discipline or clarity. It's about conflicting values. Because whether you realize it or not, your values are the invisible compass directing every decision you make. They decide what feels right, what feels wrong, what gives you joy, and what causes pain. And here's the truth most people never realize. Until you take control of your values, you'll never take control of your life. What are values really? Values are the emotional states you want to experience most in life. They're the invisible drivers behind your goals and behaviors. For example, if your top value is security, you'll always seek stability. If it's freedom, you'll crave independence. If it's love, you'll prioritize connection. Every action you take is your attempt to move toward your top values and away from the emotions you fear. Tony breaks them into 2 groups. 1, toward values, the emotions you want to experience, love, joy, success, peace, freedom, passion. Away from values, the emotions you want to avoid, like failure, rejection, boredom, pain, loneliness. The problem is, most people never consciously decide what their values are. They're shaped by parents, culture, religion, friends, and often they contradict each other. The conflict of values. Here's the scary part. When your top values conflict, you live in emotional chaos. Example, let's say your highest value is success, but your second value is comfort. You'll constantly chase goals,
But the moment things get uncomfortable, you'll retreat. You'll feel stuck, guilty, confused, because two powerful parts of your mind are pulling in opposite directions. I experienced this myself. For years, I valued achievement above everything. But deep down, I also valued peace of mind. So even when I achieved my goals, I couldn't enjoy them. It felt like I was winning on the outside, but losing on the inside. Only when I redefined my values and made growth and fulfillment my top priorities did everything finally align. How to redefine your values. Tony teaches a powerful exercise called the hierarchy of values. Here's how it works. List your top toward values. What do you truly want to experience? Love, joy, success, growth, peace, freedom, passion. Rank them in order of importance. Which emotions matter most to you? Which come first when you make a tough decision? List your away from values. What do you avoid at all costs, like failure, rejection, boredom, pain, loneliness? Ask, are my toward and away from values in conflict? If your top toward value is freedom, but your away from value is rejection, you might avoid taking bold actions, because freedom often brings rejection. Redefine your hierarchy consciously. Choose values that empower you, not paralyze you. Decide what kind of person you want to be and align your emotions accordingly. As Tony says, values are the compass that directs your life, whether you realize it or not. Once you align your values, everything changes. Decisions become easy. Inner conflict disappears. Your energy flows in one direction, forward. You stop asking, should I do this, and start saying, this is who I am. Because when your values are clear, your identity strengthens. You live by design, not by default. When I first did this exercise, I realized that fear had secretly been my biggest value, not consciously, but emotionally. Every big decision I made was to avoid fear, not to create growth. Once I flipped it and made growth and courage my top values, my whole life changed. I started filming videos, taking risks, speaking openly. Did fear disappear? No, but it stopped controlling me. Now my decisions come from who I want to become, not from what I'm afraid to lose. Your values shape your destiny. But most people live their whole lives chasing goals that don't align with their true emotional blueprint. So here's Tony's challenge, and mine, to you. Take a quiet hour. Write down your values. Ask yourself, what emotions do I truly want to feel every day? What emotions do I want to eliminate from my life? Then rearrange them consciously. Because if you don't choose your values, the world will choose them for you. Tony Robbins says, it's not what we get that makes us happy, but who we become. And who we become is defined by what we value most. So decide today, what kind of human do you want to be? What kind of emotional home will you live in every day? Fear or fulfillment? Once your values align with your vision, you become unstoppable.
The questions that shape your life. Let me ask you something. When something bad happens, what's the first thing you ask yourself? Is it, why does this always happen to me? Or, what can I learn from this? Because that tiny difference, that one question, can change your entire life. Tony Robbins says, questions are the control switch of the human mind. They direct your focus, and your focus determines how you feel, and how you feel determines what you do. Every moment of your life is shaped not by your circumstances, but by the questions you ask about them. Your mind is like a search engine. Whatever question you type in, it will find an answer. So if you ask bad questions, you'll get painful answers. But if you ask empowering questions, your brain will find empowering meaning. Let's start with this simple truth. Where focus goes, energy flows. If you constantly ask, "Why can't I ever succeed?" your brain will find evidence that you're not enough. But if you ask, "How can I make this work no matter what?" your brain starts searching for possibilities, not problems. Questions shift your focus, and your focus shapes your emotions. And your emotions create your destiny. That's how powerful they are. The quality of your life equals the quality of your questions. Tony says successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. Let that sink in. Every breakthrough starts with a new question. Instead of, "Why am I failing?" ask, "What am I not seeing yet?" Instead of, "Why is life unfair?" ask, "What can I do right now to move forward?" Instead of, "Why me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Questions change meaning, and meaning change emotion. Change your emotion, and you change your entire behavior. Your brain is always listening. Here's the crazy part. Your brain answers every question you ask, whether it's good or bad. If you say, "Why can't I lose weight?" your brain will say, "Because you're lazy." But if you ask, "How can I enjoy losing weight while feeling amazing?" your brain will start finding creative answers, new routines, new foods, new habits. So the key is to ask better questions that lead to better focus. Tony's tool, the morning power questions. Tony Robbins uses a daily ritual he calls the morning power questions. They're designed to put your brain in a peak emotional state, gratitude, energy, and strength. Here are a few examples. What am I happy about in my life right now? What am I proud of? What am I grateful for? What am I committed to in my life right now? What am I enjoying most about today? When you start your morning by answering these, you literally rewire your brain to look for positivity. You train your focus like a muscle, and soon it becomes your natural emotional state. When I first learned this, I realized how toxic my inner questions had been. Every morning, my mind used to ask, "What's going to go wrong today?" No wonder I felt anxious and drained before the day even began. So I started replacing those questions with Tony's power questions. The shift was insane. Within a week, I woke up feeling alive. Instead of looking for stress, I started noticing opportunities. A beautiful sunrise, a kind message, a small win at work. My outer world didn't change, but my inner questions changed my entire reality. How to use the power of questions in daily life. Tony gives a simple formula for creating empowering questions. Start with how or what, not why. Why usually leads to blame. How and what lead to solutions. Focus on the present and the future. Don't dwell on what went wrong. Ask what you can do now. Make your questions specific and emotionally charged. Instead of, "How can I be happier?" ask, "What can I do right now to feel joy and energy?" Use them when you feel stuck, angry, or afraid. That's when they work best. They interrupt your old emotional patterns. Think of questions as the steering wheel of your emotions. If you're angry, you can ask, "What else could this mean?" If you're scared, ask, "What can I control right now?" If you're overwhelmed, ask, "What's one small step I can take today?" These tiny pivots pull you out of reaction and back into power, because emotion follows focus, and focus follows your questions. The deepest question of all: what does this mean and what am I going to do about it? That's the question that separates victims from leaders, followers from creators. Life doesn't stop throwing challenges at you, but when you master your questions, you master your emotions, your focus, and your destiny. My challenge to you: tonight, before you go to bed, write down 5 questions you'll ask yourself every morning. Make them positive, powerful, emotional. Something like, what can I be excited about today? Who can I make smile today? How can I make progress toward my dream? Then commit to asking them every single day, because small questions create massive transformations over time. Tony Robbins says, if you want better answers, start asking better questions. And he's right. Your life is a reflection of the questions you ask yourself every single day. So what will you ask yourself tomorrow morning? Because the moment you change your questions, you begin to change your life. You know, after finishing Awaken the Giant Within, I realized something that hit me deeply. The real giant, the power, the drive, the clarity, was never missing. It was asleep, buried under doubts, fears, routines, and excuses. And Tony Robbins doesn't just give you a pep talk, he gives you the tools to wake that giant up.
The big lesson: your life is a reflection of your decisions. Every moment, you're making decisions to move forward or stay stuck, to choose growth or comfort. And your destiny isn't built in a single dramatic event. It's built in thousands of tiny, quiet choices you make daily. When I first read that, I started noticing how I made decisions automatically, reacting instead of choosing. So I tried one thing Tony suggested: decide consciously. For example, instead of saying, I should go to the gym, I decided I must go because I'm building the identity of a disciplined person. That one decision turned my energy and self-respect around. And that's the beauty of Robbins' method. It's not philosophy, it's action. Control your mind, control your life. When life hits hard, and it will, your emotions become your battlefield. Tony says, change your state, change your story. I started practicing it. One morning, I felt exhausted, scrolling my phone endlessly. Then I stood up, turned on my favorite track, and jumped around for 2 minutes, like a maniac. And boom, energy came back, motivation returned. It's crazy how fast your physiology can rewrite your emotions. When you control your state, you control your focus, and focus shapes reality. Tony teaches that your beliefs are either wings or cages. Most of us live trapped in invisible cages. I'm not good enough. I'll never make that much money. I'm too late. But what if those are lies you've repeated so long they feel true? I wrote down 3 beliefs that held me back and replaced them with empowering ones. It wasn't magic, but every day I started noticing how my actions aligned with the new beliefs. And slowly, results followed. If you believe you can't, your mind shuts off. If you believe you can, it starts searching for ways. Rewire the pain and pleasure system. One of Tony's most powerful teachings is neuro-associative conditioning. He says we do everything to gain pleasure or avoid pain. So, if you want to change behavior, link massive pain to the old habit and massive pleasure to the new one. For me, it was procrastination. I made a list of what procrastination costs me: stress, missed chances, self-disappointment, and what taking action gives me: freedom, pride, progress. I visualized it so vividly that even the thought of wasting time made me uncomfortable. And that's when change became easy, because your brain always follows emotion, not logic. Your values are your compass. Tony says, if your values conflict, your soul feels divided. And that's why so many people chase success but feel empty. Their values are misaligned. He helped me clarify mine: growth, freedom, connection. Now, every decision I make, I ask, does this bring me closer to these values? And when it does, life feels meaningful, not chaotic. Ask better questions, get a better life. Your questions determine your focus. Ask, why does this always happen to me? And your brain finds reasons to stay stuck. Ask, how can I turn this into a win? And suddenly, new doors open. Now, every morning I ask, what am I excited about today? Who can I help today? What's one thing I can do to grow? And it sets my mind on fire. Final message: wake up the giant. You already have everything you need inside you: power, passion, courage, drive. It's all there, waiting to be unleashed. The giant isn't someone else, it's you. You just need to wake up, make the decision, and never go back to sleep. So, as Tony Robbins says, it's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Decide today to take control of your life, to rise, to grow, to live fully. If this recap inspired you, hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we dive deep into life-changing books, break them down into real lessons, and share practical tools that help you build your best life. Remember, you don't need to wait for motivation. You just need to wake the giant within.